Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Rubbin' is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show, brought to you by FantasyDonks.com, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know to start playing daily fantasy sports. I'm Sean Big Papa Williams.
I'm Jamie the Learjet Lear.
And we are coming off a fresh, hot week of winning action in NASCAR. Lear and I both had great teams. I put up a 179.25 last week. And
279.
What? I'm sorry, 279, my bad. And could have had the win if I'd have just picked the right lower tier drivers to fill in. I messed up on those guys, but still had a great cash day. Lear had a great cash day in the GPPs. Hopefully we can bring you more great cash action this week for those tournaments and 50-50s. We'll get more into how we did in more detail a little bit later, but we know you want the action for this week's race. So we will be bringing you all of our breakdown of the Sylvania 300 from New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Lear, give us the track breakdown this week, buddy. What are we looking at?
All right, brother. Good to be with you again for another week of Rubbin' is Racing, baby.
Yep.
This week, come to you from the New Hampshire Motor Speedway in Loudon, New Hampshire. The track is 1.058 miles in length for the Sylvania 300. So we're going to be doing 300 laps. Number of cautions here averages about 8, but could exceed that as guys will be pushing, obviously, around with this being a smaller, flat track. So you're going to get a lot of bumping in the corners going around this track, especially when you start talking about the restarts. You're going to go 2-3 wide as far as that goes. But this is an oval track where the turns are only about 2 to 7 degrees. The track is 65 feet wide. There's basically only one good groove here, and that's on the lower side. And then, during obviously the restarts, when you're going to be 2-3 wide, some of those guys are going to have to go outside, but they're going to lose the momentum being out there. So most times the leaders stay up front here, which means, obviously we're going to have a lot of fast laps, laps led. There will be some place differential guys out there, but there will be less and fewer far between versus like last week at the 1.5 mile in Chicagoland. So, but race is this Sunday, September 27th at 2 p.m. Eastern on NBCSN. As far as the weather, 72 degrees, clear, sunny skies with 0% chance of precipitation, and winds will be coming out of the south-southwest at 6 miles an hour. Interesting fact here at Loudon. The last race in July, the 5-hour Energy 301, 2 drivers basically led 2/3 of the entire race. That would be Kyle Busch, who started 4th and led 96 laps, and Brad Keselowski, who started 10th, leading 100 laps. Drivers starting in the top 10 tend to stay up there. Obviously, like I said, in New Hampshire, 5 out of the top 10 qualifiers in the July 5-hour Energy finished in the top 10, so you had a 50% finish in the top 10 rate. So
yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. As we know, the leaders stay up front at this track, which brings us directly, as a great transition, into the Burning Rubber segment for the week.
Burning Rubber, baby!
And my first Burning Rubber pick should surprise no one, especially with Lear's analysis. I'm taking Carl Edwards and making him the anchor on every team. He qualified first. Look, guys, I've said it before. I'll say it again, and I'll keep preaching it. JGR Racing right now is on another level. They've had 9 wins in the last 12 races, including the last 3. And right now in the chase, they're running 1, 2, 3, and 4. JGR is just on a whole new level. Edwards qualified first. This is a track where it's hard to get up front. I like Edwards to stay in first and go 1-1 on this race and be the guy that's worth all the points. What's your opinion, man?
Love it, man. I've got this guy. I'm not going to do much breakdown on him because I also have him on my 6K lug nut lineup. But definitely love me some Cousin Carl this week. He and his team are just hot as can be right now. And with him starting in this top position at number 1, look for him to just start out and be the guy that leads the laps up front towards the beginning of the race. Now, with the cautions and everything, it depends on how good his pit crew is going to be this week. But everybody in that whole entire team is on the same page. I look for him to have a really, really strong finishing week for sure this week, and if not, win the race.
Right. And, I mean, as far as pit crews go, you have to love the JGR pit crews. Like, he's the one that started the new speed pit crew era. Like, these guys, he trains them at NFL training camps, like, as athletes. Like, if there's ever pit crews that I'm confident with, it's the JGR guys.
Oh, definitely, for sure.
Who's your first guy to burn some rubber this week?
My first burning rubber guy is a guy that got a little bit upset and pissed off last week at Chicagoland. I'm going with Kevin Harvick as my number one guy this week. After the fiasco with him and Jimmy Johnson, Harvick, is fired up. He's needs to finish well after his disappointing finish due to Johnson's contact with him last week in the race. And I don't know, did you see the clip of them going fisticuffs in the parking lot?
Yeah, that was actually pretty cool. Like, I always enjoy good driver-on-driver action.
Oh, yeah, man. Always bring a little WWE to the after party.
Especially when we can get helmet swings in. Like, helmet swings at drivers are probably the funnest. Like, although the most dangerous, but, good entertainment.
Oh, yeah. Well, it didn't quite get to that point, but anyways, those things usually get broken up pretty fast.
Oh, yeah.
But this week, Harvick is starting second behind Carl Edwards there. I'm assuming he'll probably be on the outside as the starting point is the inside here at Loudon. But in his last 4 races here at Loudon, he started 8th, 12th, 3rd, and 12th with finishes of 20th, 30th, 3rd, and 3rd. So a little bit mixture there, but his last 2 races he's done very, very well. This time last year during the chase, he started 3rd and finished 3rd. And over his last 5 races here at Loudon, he's led over 163 laps. He's the most expensive driver this week at $11,000. But my recommendation is he's going to pay off every bit of that $11,000 this week. And the best part about it too is putting him on your lineup is not going to murder your lineup. He actually, building a lineup around him is fairly easy this week. So I'd look for him to win the race this week and stay up front during the whole entire race, and he will get a substantial amount of points this week with laps led and fastest laps.
No, dude, I love where your head's at this week, especially on the Harvick play. I'm not sure I'm not making it, and the reason why is because how easy it is to get him in your lineup this week. I think the masses are going to be on him, especially coming off the poor performance. I mean, it can break either way. I just think that as easy as it was to put together the lineups this week, I think a common starting place is going to be him and Edwards, and I want to be on an island and just hope that his hot head is going to cause him to mess up somewhere in the race.
Sure, I understand.
I mean, it's not necessarily like probable. I'll grant that, but it is something that puts me on an island, I think, by not owning him.
Yeah, and I think he will be a high-owned guy, but for me, you got to have the points first to take down the GPP.
No,
so if you don't have the guy bringing you the points, then you're not obviously going to cash. So for me, this is pretty much a free square this week. You have your choices like we've already talked about, and I'm just rolling with Harvick. So
fair enough, dude. I totally get it. Which leads me to my next choice for burning rubber, which is Jeff Gordon. He qualified 10th. I know we're saying it's hard to move up on this track, and you guys know I love Jeff Gordon, but there's even more to the magic of Jeff Gordon this week. He's in 10th. He's in the Drive to End World Hunger car. So we've got that good juju running for us. He's also poised to become, when he steps in and turns on the car this week, he will become the Cal Ripken of motorsports, of NASCAR. The new Ironman will pass Ricky Rudd and his 788 consecutive start streak. That's amazing when you think about having to start that many consecutive times. Start 789 for him, in my opinion, maybe the perfect time for Gordon to get his win and move closer to this perfect end of the career that I've been talking about. He started off amazingly last week, got the points we needed. He's in the top grouping right outside the JGR drivers in the chase right now, looking to advance after the first cuts of the chase. I like Jeff Gordon to continue this miracle run. I've been feeling it all season. He's paid off multiple weeks. There's something that I'm feeling this week that says Jeff Gordon's going to do something special. And at his price tag, I just don't think you can pass it up. He's cheaper than all the other elite drivers. And I love the storyline. You know I love the storyline, and I'm just feeling it this week.
Well, here's the crazy part, bro. I seriously was this close to putting him on my lineup this week because I too have a inept feeling that he's going to do something this week. I don't know what it is, if it's the car that he's driving. He's coming off a good week, like you said, last week, as far as points are concerned. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's got to have a win sometime this season. It's just destiny. It's bound to happen.
Yes, it's going to happen, and we're running out of opportunities.
Yes, exactly. And the chances are getting slimmer and slimmer.
Right. And the narrative keeps getting cooler, right? Like, the more likely you get to win here, the more likely he's in the running for the chase, like, in the final season. Like, it's just too great of a storyline to pass up.
Now, I will say this. I don't have him on my Lugnut lineup, but I will be entering multiple lineups, and he will be on some of my other lineups, especially at that 8,600.
8,600, yeah.
Right. But, here's the other question about that, too. Do you think others out there in the community are also seeing what we're seeing, and he's going to be a highly percentage-owned guy, especially because of his price point?
Well, as popular of a driver as he is, his ownership percentage hasn't been being super astronomically high, and I think it's because he doesn't have the win this year. I think the more savvy players are going to be on him at his price point. I think the masses are going to stay off of him, though. I could be wrong, but if I am wrong, my gut tells me something special is going to happen, so I really don't care.
The one thing I definitely do like, too, is he's starting in that 10th position. So, with him starting there, he's going to have a good shot of getting up front and getting up there. So.
Yeah, he's close enough to the front of the back where you don't really have to worry about it. It's just nice.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Lear. That moves us to who's your next pick to burn rubber this week?
My second burning rubber guy is a guy that had a decent week last week as far as performing. But he's been awesome all year long, and I continue to tout old Rowdy Burns. But old Kyle Busch. Kyle's coming off a great fantasy NASCAR week as far as points are concerned. He scored 80.25 points last week. He started 7th and finished 9th. But the reason why he scored so many points is because he led 121 laps. As far as that goes, Rowdy has always been a great driver at these short tracks. And obviously, he's got some of the best equipment on the Sprint Cup circuit with being in a JGR car. This week, he is starting in the 17th position. In July at the 5-Hour Energy 301, he won the race, starting 4th. So he is going for the 2015 sweep at New Hampshire, and he led 96 laps in July. So this week, you get the benefit of him starting in the 17th position. You get that place differential. He'll also be driving the pedigree vehicle this week. So unfortunately, no crispy edge, which makes it a little bit disappointed.
I might have to switch my pick now.
But in his last 4 races here at Loudon, he started 12th, 1st, 5th, and 4th with finishes of 2nd, 8th, and 1st. That is ridiculous. So no doubt in my mind whatsoever, he is going to be a top 5 finisher without a question, with not only that, but potential of taking this race home for the sweep of 2015. I love me some Rowdy this week, and I'm pairing him with Harvick. So hopefully these two boys will pay off huge this week for me.
Yeah, dude. I'll just go ahead and tell you now. Rowdy's on my lineup. Granted, I wanted the crispy M&M car, even though crispy M&Ms are terrible. I like when he's on the crispy edge a little bit better than the pedigree car. But I'll take what I can get and put one of the best drivers on the circuit and one of the best cars with the ability to gain me points for place differential.
I just love him there at the 17th spot.
I would like it. I would like it a little bit more if this track was a little easier to pass on. But
right, that's what my point was going to be. Is if it was easier to pass, I'd like it a little bit more. But he loves these short tracks, and I look for him to be aggressive. And,
right, and dude, of all the people, 17th's not that far back, and I'm not too terribly concerned about it.
No, and I think too, him and his crew chief will get together, and they'll have some strategy there where whether it's a pit stop to avoid or certain situations. As far as that goes, as far as their strategy for the race, he's going to put him in a position to get up there towards the front.
Well, and starting off, Kenseth, his teammate, is only 2 rows ahead of him. So,
yeah,
I mean, it's possible they start teaming up and try to work their way to Hamlin and Edwards. So, yeah, I actually like that play, and I'm with you there, and you'll see that on my lineup here in a little bit. But that wraps up who we have burning rubber this week. We'll get to more guys we like when we give you our lineups here in a little bit. But now it's the going to the garage segment. And for those of you who don't know, this means it could be that we think the driver wrecks. Could mean that we think the driver just has a terrible track history. Could also mean that there's other factors like price, that we don't like the driver, or that he's just on a bad trend. With that said, my first pick for the going to the garage this week is that of Clint Bowyer. He qualified 25th, and his back's against the wall. He got another blow. He found out, we already know, we talked about the fact that he's losing his ride. We know that's just awful. But now he's lost his crew chief for this race and the next 2 races afterwards. He also is qualified last out of all the guys in the chase. I think he's just on a run of bad luck. I don't want any piece of somebody that's got this much run bad going for him. I think it's an easy fade, even though he's fairly cheap.
I definitely agree with you here as far as that goes. Clint Bowyer, he's one of those guys that he's kind of especially a streaky guy, but he's definitely good at these short tracks. But as far as that goes, he's starting late in the field. Mm-hmm. And we already talked about it a little bit. Starting from the 26th position, it's going to be hard for him to make up place differential. But with that being said, and his price point, he's still a little bit pricey for who he is. He's $7,500.
No, that's my argument. Like, he's too expensive for who he is. He's cheap enough that it's enticing, right? Like, but not cheap enough to pay off for who he is.
Yeah, exactly. And coming off his last race, all of his momentum and everything that he had going into the chase, it definitely was taken away a little bit last week, when he finished 19th. He did start 26th, but finished 19th last week. But, you're not going to gain many points as far as the chase is concerned going with that. And then, like you said, with his crew chief being out, that's the main guy that he's been listening to all year that's been getting him in the position to be in the chase. Right. So, there's probably going to be some miscommunication going on there, and I definitely don't like that. So I'm with you 100% on the avoid Clint Bowyer this week. Right.
It's like when I have to do this show without you, Lear, I'm just a little off. Things they don't run as smoothly. Like, you miss your wingman,
That's right.
All right. Lear, who's your pick to go to the garage this week?
Well, sorry about the coughing, people. We're fighting a little bit of a cold here, but my going to the garage guy might be a little bit surprising to some folks out there, but it is Jimmy Johnson in the number 48 Lowe's vehicle. Don't take it that I'm picking Jimmy Johnson just because I picked Harvick to win this week because of their little spat last week. I'm purely picking him based on his results here and basically his cost as well. Mm-hmm. His last 4 races here at New Hampshire, he started 11th, 2nd, 6th, 7th. So hovering, right around that top 10 qualifying area. So, good qualifying area that we do like. But his finishes at those 4 races in order are 4th, 42nd due to a crash, 5th, and 22nd here in July at the 5-Hour Energy 301. Jimmy's not a huge, strong track driver type as far as the way that he drives his car. Plus, he's driving a Hendrick vehicle, and they just haven't been showing up very well lately in these races. And his cost is $9,600. So he's starting 5th this week. So he has a good race, and if he does have a good race and finishes where he starts, and has a few laps led, no sweat because he's not paying off at his price point. Based on his history, Jimmy will not have a good week in points for this week. And for me, he's definitely not worth a roster spot, in my opinion, because for that cost, I can get Carl Edwards, who's hot as a button, and he's starting off in the lead and going to get definitely laps led without question, and he's on the hotter team. So just based off of his history, his price point, I am off the Jimmy Johnson train.
Yeah, I don't know how hot a button actually is there, but I definitely.
Sometimes it depends on what type of button you're pushing.
But no, like it's that simple for me, dude. I can buy Edwards, who's on the pole, cheaper, who's running better, in a better car. Like there's no argument there for me. Like it's an easy fade.
Yeah, or you can roll Denny Hamlin.
Yeah,
he's only $100 cheaper, and he's on the hotter.
Oh, absolutely.
The hotter team, and
right, and like so, like,
to go that way.
Let's say I throw one of them on there. Like I would still rather choose the other one than paying up more for Jimmy Johnson. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. I've got better drivers around that tier, and I want to save up to buy the Harvick or Kyle like Busch. To be honest, like at least that's the way I see this race breaking down. Maybe even buying up to like go the Keselowski route. Like that's not where I'm at this week, but I understand why people would be. Like it doesn't make sense to me where Jimmy's priced at to like pay for him, which could be the ultimate contrarian play, guys. It may put you on an island, but
exactly, and that could be a route some people will go because I don't know. I just think a lot of people in the community will see this aspect of it. He is the highest qualifying Hendrick vehicle in the field, but just based off of his price point and his history here, I can't do it. But it is NASCAR, and anything can happen. So
for sure.
He would probably be a very, very, very good contrarian.
But in all due fairness, dude, these Hendrick cars have looked off for a couple weeks now. They just don't look like they have the speed that the JGR Toyotas do. Like,
and the Penske's.
Or even the Penske's. And to be honest, that would I know it's worrying them as a team, and it would worry me as a fantasy owner. If the teams are legitimately concerned that they are that much slower than the other two elite teams, like, I don't need to be rostering them for fantasy purposes either.
Correct.
But that's just me. Like, I think your pick is spot on there, and I will have 0 shares of him this week. Which brings us to my personal favorite segment, as we're the only site out there and the only show out there that does this, where we give you our actual lineups that we are entering in the 6K lug nut this week. We got a nice little bump this week again from the 5K.
Give me more of that money.
Right. Hopefully I can do better and actually win it this week instead of just placing it at the top. All right, my lineup starts off, it should be no surprise, I already told you, I'm starting off with the Edwards train. I then agreed completely with Lear and went with Kyle Busch at the 10.8 price tag. I then went with Denny Hamlin at the 9.5 and backed that up with Jeff Gordon at 8.6. I think those plays give me that solid core that I had last week. They're all chasers. They're all people that are running legit, and they're literally running 1, 2, 4, 5 in the chase standings right now, right? Or am I off on that? Yeah. And so, like, I will take that setup. I do have to value buy a racer to get this lineup done. So what I did was I went down and bought good old Jeffy Earnhardt, and I'm rolling him out there. Why? Because he's second to last in the field, which means literally it's darn near impossible for him to get me negative points. Any wreck that happens, any cars that blow engines, any cars that have issues, I'm automatically gaining points on, and he's min value. I got that done, and by getting that done, it lets me then spend up a little bit more on my 6th and final driver, which is AJ Allmendinger. And I really like the Dinger this week. He's been a little, we all know the Dinger. He goes from consistent to inconsistent, and he seems to do it in stretches. Last week at the My Afibris 400, he did put up a negative point total at a negative 13. But if you look at his driving history, every time he has a subpar race, anything less than like 15, he then comes back out and lays at least 20 plus. Most times he goes 30 plus. And that's something I like to see from a driver. Somebody that's about the immediate turnaround and likes to perform off of a bad performance. So,
yeah, definitely, especially too with his qualifying position.
Oh yeah. Once again, I got a guy that's running near the front, that could run near the front. He's in the middle. Like, I've got the ability to move up. I just like to play this week.
So roll through your lineup one more time.
All right, qualifying 30th. He qualified 30th. The lineup.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No. I'm sorry. I just had to click the other window again. It's just Busch, Hamlin, Edwards, Gordon, Jeffrey Earnhardt, and Allmendinger.
So you're rolling JGR and then
JGR with the gut Jeff Gordon feeling.
I like it, man. I definitely think it's a great lineup this week, and you definitely have a good shot to cash on that.
Yeah, I think so too. Hopefully, I'm right. So let's hear what lineup you got that's going to do damage this week.
So my lineup this week also too is not all completely heavy JGR like Big Papa, but got some other drivers in there too. But starting out with Kevin Harvick at 11,000, and then Kyle Busch at the 10.8. I'm starting off with the two most expensive guys here, but I'm starting off with two guys that perform very well at these short tracks, and I don't have to go through the history of both of them again. But I mean, both of them should have a great Sunday. I think that they will be both the two highest scoring guys within the contest on Sunday as far as the race is concerned. I also rolled the same play, a couple plays that you did. AJ Allmendinger at the 6,000. Allmendinger's season's all but over, but he's still giving it everything he's got because you're always on the hot seat. When you're driving for a smaller team like he is.
Mm-hmm.
He starts this week in the 30th spot. In this summer, in July at the 5 Hour Energy, he finished 13th after starting 22nd. So he's got some place differential in there, and he knows how to run on these small tracks. And I just look for him as far as his price point. He's going to get you, some positive points this week, starting in that 30th position. And he's down there with the lower, tiered guys. And, he's got nowhere to go but up. And I think he's definitely going to accomplish that this week. But he's basically my pump play this week. I'm crossing my fingers his price will pay off for his place differential.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, there's clearly 13 drivers that are going to be behind him. So he's not going to lose any of that ground. And at $6,000, what more could you ask for?
Yeah. And so my next guy is Trevor Bayne. I haven't picked Trevor Bayne too much this year at $5,600. But Bayne has had a up and down season this year. He's racing for a smaller team as well. But he's got a lot of talent. He's a good driver. And he's also, a Daytona 500 winner, about 4 years ago in 2011. But he's a great price this week at $5,600. He's starting in 33rd, so even 3 spots worse than AJ Allmendinger. And he's obviously in the muck with all those lower tiered guys. So he's a really, great low cost, high value guy this week. He's also been a very kind person to one of our fans, Adrian Woodruff. He's a huge NASCAR fan, and also Adrian has gotten to be in the pits there with Trevor Bayne.
Oh, yeah.
So because of our boy Adrian Woodruff, and also for his good price point and his possibly place differential, Trevor Bayne is getting the nod on my team this week.
Nice, dude. Now, are you convinced enough that, on the Bayne play, that you think I should go with him over the Jeffrey Earnhardt? Because I do have money left over.
I definitely would, man. And the reason why I say that is because Earnhardt is at 5,300 and Trevor Bayne's at 5,600. You're talking about a guy that's got, consistently exposure to NASCAR Sprint Cup series versus a guy that doesn't race very often, is later in the pack. And, Trevor Bayne is definitely going to finish up, I would assume.
I mean, they're both in the back of the pack, bro.
Right. But, you're talking about a guy that's
got potential to finish 20th versus a guy that has potential to finish.
A guy that has
33rd.
wins versus that's proven it versus a guy that, hasn't. So,
well, no, and it might, and
$300 more, I'd be on that all day long.
Yeah, and in all fairness to me and disclosure, when I set my lineup, I started with going the stud JGR route with Gordon. I threw him in there at min price just to see if I had money left over when I got done with what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so when I realized I had the money left over, I was like, "Oh wait, that might actually be the play." So officially, viewers, I just swapped out Bayne for Jeffrey. I just did it while we were talking. That's my official lineup then.
Man, I am in the wrong business. I need to start selling cars or something.
It was apparently you sold me on that, but I think it's a little bit different having somebody make a bottom tier driver swap out versus buying a car. So,
but back to my lineup. Next guy, we share this guy too, Carl Edwards.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy was on my team last week. He was one of my burning rubber guys. And I definitely love me some Carl Edwards, especially at $9,300. I don't know how he's $9,300 after he got second last week.
Yeah.
He's been one of the hottest drivers on the Sprint Cup circuit. He's coming off, like I said, a second place finish. He qualified first this week. His cost, which is crazy, is actually down $300 from last week. He was $9,600 last week. But based on all that information, where he's starting from, his ownership will be probably pretty crazy high. I definitely anticipate that. But, without a doubt, he's going to get, a lot of laps led, fastest laps, and be in contention at the end of the race for the win. He's JGR driver. Enough said. You got to have Carl Edwards.
Completely agree, dude. And I love DraftKings. I love that they're bringing us NASCAR. But their NASCAR driving pricing algorithm is jacked. I don't know if there's just an error in it or what, but you were talking about earlier, the fact that Jimmy Johnson is priced higher than Carl Edwards is criminal.
Yes.
It doesn't make any sense. There shouldn't be a world where I can roster 3 JGR drivers and Jeff Gordon on my team, in all honesty.
Pretty sexy.
Yeah, that shouldn't be able to happen. So the pricing algorithm's clearly off. Take advantage of it. Hopefully we're the only people taking advantage of it. I doubt that that's the case.
Well, we are broadcasting this, so hope you guys take advantage of it.
Well, I meant us and our viewers, of course.
Yeah.
So, anyways, with that said...
But don't change a darn thing, DraftKings. I like the way that it is.
I would like to see you guys at least have a better pricing algorithm that more accurately reflects what drivers are doing. And sure. I think that's really important in NASCAR. It's important in every sport. And their algorithms are really good for baseball and pretty good for football.
Yeah. So I got one more driver to go here. Rolling with Austin Dillon. I don't pick Austin Dillon too much as on my team for the lug nut, but he is a little pricey this week, coming in at $7,200. But Dillon loves these small track races, and he's had some really nice history here at Loudon. The 5-hour energy in July, he started 24th and finished 8th, so had a really good place differential there. He's only had 3 races total here at Loudon. He started 23rd, 22nd, and 24th. So obviously he loves starting in the 20s with finishing of 14th, 11th, and 8th. So every single race he's been here, he's always had positive place differential. I look for him to, obviously do the same this week. He's starting in the 15th position. Right there in the mix with some of the other big name guys. I'm sorry, he's starting 16th, not 15th.
Yeah.
But, he's got Kyle Busch and Eric Amarola, those guys right next to him. So I look for him to definitely come up and finish in the top 10 this week. He's not going to produce you crazy, crazy points, but my inclination here is to take Austin Dillon, who I think for sure is going to give you some place differential, where I could have rolled Eric Amarola, in that same scenario when I've only got those drivers left. But I rolled with Amarola last week. He did play some dividends, scoring me 41 points, going from 20th starting position to 10th. As far as that goes, the only other options there would have been Casey Kane. And I'm not rolling with Casey Kane because he has not been producing very well. And I don't believe in that. And then it goes to Tony Stewart at 6,900 and then just kind of scrum from there. So, basically it was between, Dillon and then Eric Amarola. But I'm definitely sticking with Austin Dillon this week, and I think you should too.
Fair enough, dude. Makes sense to me. I actually understand where your head's at, and you did have to get down a little bit more on the value when you spent on Harvick and Kyle. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I like it. I think that definitely has a lineup of chance of cashing. And
just for a quick review, so it's AJ Allmendinger, Trevor Bayne, Kyle Busch, Austin Dillon, Carl Edwards, and Kevin Harvick. let's get it done this weekend, boys. Let's take home that 6K GPP.
Yeah, we're getting close, dude. I think possibly this is the week. You know what? I'm hoping that I'm right, and what does you in? I hope you cash, but I hope what keeps you out of winning and keeps me in the winners is that Jeff Gordon play. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I know it's gonna happen.
I hope it does, man. I hope it happens this week.
With that said, boys and girls, thanks for watching the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR show. Remember to like, favorite us, share us, comment on Facebook, Twitter, and the YouTube channel, and the site itself, fantasydonks.com.
Yeah, and also too, if anybody out there, if you guys want some viewership and some sponsorship, we're always available for that. So you can always reach out to us, and we definitely love to accommodate you if you'd like to do so.
We are always down to solicit ourselves for whatever product or company you want.
But also too, for you hardcore folks out there, just a little bit of a recap last week. Thanks to all you guys that are tuning in and want to tune out. Have a great weekend. Good luck this weekend in your fantasy NASCAR and your fantasy football.
Oh, yeah.
But just a recap of last week, we'll start off with the big stud, Big Papa, who finished in the 59th position in the lug nut last week. With his lineup, he had some really good plays. We shared some plays together. Kyle Busch scored 80.25 points. He was 23.9% owned. His biggest thing was he started 7th, finished 9th, but he led 121 laps. So that was a big one for you.
Yep. Think about the points he would have laid down if he would have actually got the win.
I know. It would have been sick.
Wow.
It would have been over 100. The other big one, the guy that took it home last week, Denny Hamlin, number 11. He was my burning rubber guy last week, and I hope you guys listened to us, both of us. He scored 82.25 points, was 27% owned. So, for a guy that started 29th and finished first, a guy of his caliber, I am very shocked that his ownership was not higher than 27%.
Fair enough. I think people were just scared that he, with the broken, with the torn ACL,
yeah.
I guess, I don't know. I just think people are on this I hate JGR train that I don't understand.
Yeah, I hear you. Moving on, Jeff Gordon was your guy last week. 51.75 points scored, was 22.1% owned, and started 10th and finished 14th. So, he basically what got him most of his points was he did have 41 laps left. So,
yep.
Cousin Carl Edwards was also a huge player on your team. 58 points scored. He started 14th. He was my burning rubber guy last week. Finished the race in second behind his JGR brother, Denny Hamlin. But he was a minimally owned 12%. Does that shock you?
Oh, dude, completely. I cannot believe that he was only 12% owned.
That's crazy.
Nuts.
So, and then your two filler guys, I know.
Can we not talk about this part? Because this is what cost me winning the Deg thing.
Your big boy that you always love to talk about, Matt D. Benedetto.
He could have been my hero. I could have had he taken down these tournaments for me, I would have bought a Di Benedetto flame suit and got him autographed and framed it. But he let me down.
He scored a whopping 5 points.
Yes,
he started 39th and finished 39th, so he got only what he started. So that was 5 points.
At least my argument that he couldn't go backwards was true, right?
Yeah, for sure. And he was 7% owned, so there you go. And then your Alex Bowman play. He scored 2 points, started 32nd, finished 37th, and he was owned a whopping 2.4% owned.
Yes, as I was on the 2.4% that took that one straight to the groin.
To the gut, yeah.
No, dude. When you get that high and have somebody put it in 2-point performance, it's a punch to the groin, dude. It's it's below the belt at that point. Seriously, dude, 2 points. I was expecting 22 points.
Sure.
Come on now, son. What are we doing?
As far as my lineup, I scored 268.25. So Papa and I shared the Carl Edwards play and the Denny Hamlin play.
Yeah.
As far as that goes, my next guy that I had was Eric Amarola. He scored 44.5 points. He was my place differential guy. He started 20th, finished 10th, and he was at a good price point. And he was only 17.8% owned, so that was a decent play. One that hurt me a little bit was Clint Boyer. He scored 32 points, so not bad. A little pricey for that 32 points.
Yeah.
But he started 26th, finished 19th, and he was 22.6% owned. So a lot of people were on that play. And then my main guy that I had, my burning rubber guy who didn't perform as I was hoping he would, was Brad Keselowski. He did score 31.5, but at his price point of where he was, he definitely did not pay dividends to how much I spent on him. So I needed to have the Kyle Busch play there to get me something. If I would have had Kyle Busch instead of him, I would have taken down the race last week.
Yeah, just like if I had picked two guys, it would have got me 20 points apiece instead of 2 and 5. I took him down.
Oh, yeah. So as far as that goes, he was 25.9% owned. He started 3rd and finished 8th. He only had one fastest lap and doesn't look like he had any laps led. And then my major pump play that came into play last week, and I love that I called this guy Brett Moffitt.
Yep.
He scored 20 points, so I'll definitely take that all day, every day at his price point. A mid-value guy. I believe it was $5,300. Mm-hmm. But he started 38th and finished 31st, so he had 7 place differential there. So good place differential guy right there for me last week. So
I could have used that 20. I really could have.
Yeah. But that is the wrap-up for the last week's race. But we appreciate you guys watching the show. Like Papa said, reach out to us. Ask us any questions. We are on Twitter up to race time. We will be watching football at that time, but we'll definitely be glued to our Twitter accounts too. Also hit us up on fantasydonks.com. Give us a like, share. We'll definitely love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, I'm guaranteeing we'll have the race and the football on at the same time.
Oh yeah.
Just football probably gets sound priority.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and definitely if you guys are fantasy football players as well for DraftKings,
absolutely.
We do produce a fantasy daily daily fantasy football show called the Ultimate Fantasy Football 3-Way. Our video is up for this weekend. You can find that on fantasydonks.com on the left-hand side where fantasy football. And appreciate the love.
Guys, the information we give you there doesn't just apply to DraftKings. It actually works for any of the daily sites. Our buddy Chris Banks' site, I Play Fantasy, if you're wanting to be one of the soft launch testers there and take advantage of getting to feel out of sight before it goes all official. Like, that's a good place to get option, and our show works for it as well, just as it works for Yahoo, Draft Street, Star Street, FanDuel, you name it, Draft Day, Fantasy Feud, any of the sites. Like, the information we break down, we do it in such a way that it'll cover you on all the sites. We don't do projections. We don't tell you what we think people are going to do point wise. We break it down from a plain analysis of who we think the right plays are. So it works even for half point PPR and the different variations.
Definitely, it's all about who's going to perform.
So tune in if you guys are interested in football in any way. It's well worth your watch. Thank you again for tuning in to NASCAR. Thank you for being a fan of the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. I'm Sean Big Papa Williams.
I'm Jamie the Lear Jet Lear.
And you guys have yourself a great weekend. We did it at the same time. Yeah. All right, Jinx, till next week. You can't talk.
Right.
Later, guys.
Everybody.